and service providers, as well as developing local capabilities and capacities. This strategy was developed in line with the national content regulations of Uganda. Subsequently, the company has undertaken a number of initiatives aimed at ensuring that Ugandan companies, entities, and citizens are adequately equipped to participate in the oil and gas sector. Some of these initiatives include the organization of national supplier development workshops with the aim of providing suppliers with information regarding oil and gas in Uganda, as well as available opportunities to supply goods and services. Suppliers are also provided with information on the procurement and national content needs and processes to help them meet the anticipated demand of the project while ensuring adherence to the highest standards of quality, health, safety, and environment.
There's a lot of detail that's always missed when we're getting the answers to the pre-qualification questionnaires, for example. It's during such forums that we get to explain in order for them to go back and be able to participate competitively in our tendering processes.
In March 2018, the company launched the Welders Training and Certification Program aimed at improving the employability of Ugandans from the Albertine region and East African crude oil pipeline areas. The training will equip 350 youth from the Albertine and Pipeline Route districts in courses leading to international certification in 2G, 3G and 4G, and 6G coded welding, hence developing a domestic pool of internationally certified welders. The first and second cohorts graduated in October 2019, following a training that was closely supervised by the GIZ E4D SOGA program. Other initiatives include training of heavy goods vehicle drivers, scaffolding training, health safety environment training, and the development of the Industry Enhancement Center. Total Energies EP Uganda is committed to the promotion of national content in the country and empowerment of Ugandans to take an active and crucial part in the overall development of the oil project in Uganda.
A very good morning to you if you're just joining us. Please note that we are observing the SOPs in this room, and so I will now remove my mask just so you know that we are observing the SOPs. And I want to welcome you to this Tilenga National Supplier Development Workshop brought to you by Total Energies under the theme today, Enhancing Awareness and Participation in the Tilenga Project. My name is Maurice Mugisha, and we're coming to you live from the Next Media Park here in Naguru, and we want to thank you for joining us for what should be an informative and very insightful workshop, supplier development workshop here. I will be taking you, of course, into some of the details, but just to let you know, Total Energies holds strategic quarterly supplier workshops to educate Ugandan citizens and companies about its procurement process, requirements, performance standards, lessons from previous bidding processes and upcoming procurements, and etc. Well, following the Tilenga project launch, which we'll be speaking to quite a lot today, there's been a ramp-up in activities such as land acquisition and the execution of the resettlement action plans, launch of procurements, and project and operation-related requirements. In parallel, several key T1 contracts have been awarded, and actual works have commenced on ground, e.g. the industrial area site preparation, construction, and water supplies services. Consequently, there is a need to create awareness of the potential opportunities flowing from the Tier 1 contracts, the project activities, and the TEPU operations, as well as showcase some of the early national content achievements registered. And that's the conversation we'll have for the better part of this morning and early afternoon. But before we dig into this information, allow me to invite John Ngole, who is the HSC Methods Manager, to take us through the safety moment, the health and safety moment with from Total Energies. Because this is very critical, John, right? Sure. All right, over to you, sir.
Thanks, Maurice, and good morning, everyone that has tuned in today. So today's safety moment is simply why safety. At Total Energies, we take the health safety of our suppliers, contractors, and visitors very seriously. We consider health and safety a core value and a top pillar in driving the success of our business. Safety is everyone's responsibility. It's for me, it's for you, and for all. It's applicable in all forms of life and areas of work. People, that's your friends, your families, and employers depend on you being safe and productive. You cannot produce if you're dead. At Total Energies, our goal is to have an accident-free workplace, and to achieve that requires a concerted effort from all stakeholders. We rely on you, the contractors and suppliers, to achieve this common goal, especially given the fact that you contribute to the biggest workforce at any workplace. We have set high standards, that's for health and safety, only because we can't afford to compromise on the health and safety of the people that work for us. And also, given the fact that we operate in a high-risk environment where we have to deal with risks ranging from land transportation, malaria, and other risks inherent in our industrial operations. People drive the success of a business, of every business, and without health and safety, human resource, we have no business producing oil in Uganda. That said, the standards are very achievable, and all it takes is your unwavering commitment and diligence towards the common goal of accident-free workplaces. The health and safety-related questions raised during tendering processes and procurement are one of the preliminary actions intended to achieve this common goal of accident-free workplaces. Subsequent qualification of bidders is simply a control to ensure that selected suppliers are capable of managing the risks inherent in their scope of works. We therefore encourage all potential vendors and suppliers taking part in the procurement processes to pay close attention to the health and safety requirements and express commitment in delivery of responses during tendering and implementation of the awarded projects. For those that don't qualify or pass, it's not the end of the road. Consultations through in-country health and safety professionals can help you get up to speed with the systems. The industry has also created an environment, a supportive environment, to guide successful and unsuccessful bidders, upgrade their health and safety practices and processes. An example is the National Content Capacity Building workshops on upgrading health and safety management systems, and also regular engagements on HSC. This could be workshops or forums to help give you feedback on industry best practices and basically new updates, and as well to get feedback from you, the contractors and suppliers, on areas of improvement. The tendering processes may seem frustrating in the beginning when we request for control procedures and evidence of their implementation, but eventually it's you, the suppliers, that benefit. We have so many contractors, past and present, who have benefited from the rigorous processes we put in place and the standards, of course, we've put in place to ensure that you are able to manage the risks in your works and activities. So, this is achievable, this has been done, and we have witnesses who can actually speak to the benefits of these processes. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, John, and I want to thank you for that health and safety moment and brought to you, of course, by Total Energies, and it's very critical that we begin our conversation at that point, and I wanted to let you know that a little later we'll have our keynote address, but to dig into this conversation, the Tilenga National Supply Development Workshop, as I mentioned, quarterly engagement with suppliers, provide information and, of course, opportunities, address some of the opportunities therein. And why hold this workshop? Well, to showcase the national content achievements and create awareness of the upcoming opportunities flowing from the Tilenga project and other company operations, but also continue preparing Ugandan suppliers to partake in the oil and gas industry through targeted capacity building in interventions. Well, and I also needed to mention that this two-day conversation includes both the Tilenga project and ECOP, which is the East Africa Crude Oil Pipeline. Both Tilenga and ECOP projects are ranked among the largest infrastructure and capital investment projects in the history of Uganda and, of course, Tanzania. As such, both projects represent transformation opportunities for the two host countries, a conversation we will be digging into later. Even as we begin this conversation, we'll be speaking to the numbers, how many jobs are being created directly and indirectly. We'll be looking at the amount of investment that will be put in both Tilenga and ECOP, but also the proposed or projected outcome, economic development outcome for the country in terms of contribution to GDP and, of course, contribution to the national economy. Well, the Tilenga and ECOP projects are important not only for Uganda, but for Total Energies to showcase their commitment to developing low-cost resources with low carbon footprint in the most socially and environmentally responsible manner. Total Energies has made a commitment to work with all the stakeholders to ensure that these projects deliver the intended benefits to the local communities, the business sector, and the country at large. So I now want to bring in our General Manager to talk us through our keynote address today. So ladies and gentlemen, welcome with me Philippe Gruex, who is the General Manager Total Energies, with his keynote address. Welcome.
Thank you, MC. So, dear participants to this forum, ladies and gentlemen, good morning to you all. Thank you for joining this important event today. Sorry, so first let me apologize for the bit last-minute change of the format of the workshop due to the very sad event which occurred last week in Kampala. So I hope you understand all. But nevertheless, I'm sure we'll have a very fruitful, I would say, discussion today in this Zoom format. So as an introduction, I mean, we are fully aware as Total Energy about the expectation on national content. And this is, be sure that it's clearly at the heart of our ambition, I would say, to develop this project. We want absolutely to have a positive impact on the local economy, on the community living around, I would say, the development side, and as well a positive impact on the national economy. And that's really at the heart of our ambition and objective to develop this project. In order to do that, of course, we need to follow a number of guidelines that has been already covered through the video and the first messages. The first one is safety requirement, and it's of, I would say, is the first criteria, the first priority to be able to deliver all what we do safely without having anyone injured. And we cannot talk about having a positive impact if we start to have people, I would say, badly injured. And that's going to ruin all the, I would say, the effort that we are putting in place. That's why, I mean, all single contractors that will jump in this project should share the same mindset that they will do all the possible effort, of course, to control the risk and make sure none of their workers will be injured at any time. And it's only with this mindset that we can really onboard, I would say, we can onboard only companies sharing the same mindset. But what I want to say, I mean, HSE is not a criteria in order to eliminate local players and etc. We are here to help you, to help local companies to build capacities in HSE management. Just what we want to see is we want to see, I would say, the positive mindset and that we share the same ambition altogether. The second very important topic, of course, is the compliance. Because compliance is also, I would say, a key criteria for success. Compliance means that we provide equal opportunities to everyone to bid and compete. And we are fully transparent on the way we attribute contracts, I would say everywhere in the project. And of course, the last point is environment. I put these three at the same level. There's not one above the other. The last point is environment. And for environment, of course, it's part of having a positive impact. We need to make sure we control our waste and all the activities that we perform will not damage the environment and will have no negative impact for the local communities. So this being said as an introduction, just to give you a brief overview on where we are today, we made some significant progress to align all the partners. You have seen in the press that now CNOOC is fully on board with us. They have taken their, I would say, the internal investment decision. So what is missing, and the job has started. The job has started on the ground, on the civil works preparation, on, of course, the land acquisition, the program of resettlement. There are a lot of activity already happening on the ground with probably around 1,000 people mobilized every day. And a number of, and all, I would say, the main contract, not fully awarded, but with I would say with the contractor being selected and working today under conditional letter of award. So the only missing piece today is enabling legislation, which are supposed to go through the parliament this week, and we do hope that on the Uganda side, all this parliamentary process, approval process will be completed by end of this week, paving the way really to accelerate further and sign, I would say, transform this CLOA into income contract and accelerate again as a pace of activity. So that was to give you a bit of overview on what's happening. So today we are here with our main contractors that will explain to you also their strategy of subcontracting, because it's important, and a lot of opportunities for Ugandan company will also come from our main contractors who will subcontract, I would say, part of their activity. And that's why it's important that you hear directly from them. And of course, as Total Energy and as operator of the block, we'll make sure, I would say, all these main contractors, all our main contractors, I would say they offer opportunities and they develop national content at the highest possible level. As it has been presented in the video, you have seen that we are not starting today. I mean, a lot of initiatives have already been done, starting from building capacities you have seen with welders, scaffolders, truck drivers being trained and certified. Now we need to make sure that these people who have been developed and certified get a chance, get connected to the right companies, contractors, in order to be able to jump in and contribute to the construction activity. You have seen that we have already a lot of local companies and of course national workers mobilized. When we talk about national content, it's important first to monitor what we are doing and to be able to speak with figures, with number of companies, and to monitor and measure what is really our impact. Because otherwise there could be a lot of different perceptions, but we need to look really at the figures. That's why we decided to set up a dedicated team with digital tools that will enable us to monitor properly what we are doing. And you will see this is going to be a cooperative tool where all contractors will be able to fill in. I mean, what is the number of workers locally? What is the, I would say, the contribution to supply, local supply, etc. And we will consolidate all that and carefully monitor. And I tell you that with the management committee of Total Energy will monitor closely the progress and where we are on this very important topic. So, what today, so it's very important that we continue to meet regularly, inviting more and more companies to join and be aware of what is happening and the opportunities that they may have. My last message is, of course, today we are focused on the construction activity, but we should keep in mind as well that we'll have to operate for 25 years, I would say, what is currently being built. And in order to do so, there will be also a lot of opportunities to develop further local capabilities and opportunities for local companies. We'll have, with the number of wells that we'll have a number of well service and well intervention quite high for the next 25 years. So we need all this well service and well intervention activity is key, and we need to have local players able to build capabilities on that. Of course, on operation of the plant and on the pipeline, on the maintenance, on inspection, maintenance in rotating equipment, maintenance for electrician, for instruments. So there will be a lot of opportunities on the long run. And we need also to keep in mind that we need to prepare ourselves and with all the local players, how we're going to build this operational phase after first oil. This being said, I'm really happy to have you all today, and I'm sure we'll all have a very fruitful discussion, and it will bring ideas and it will open new opportunities for a lot of local players, and we'll be more than happy to see the progress, and as I said, we'll monitor jointly what is happening. So be sure that we are committed on the national content topic. We are fully committed. We are with you. But it's a joint effort. It's really a joint effort from our main contractors, for the local players, for the environment, and with our partners and regulators. And we will all work together to make sure it's happening as we would like to see it. Thank you very much. And once again, I wish you a very fruitful discussion today.
Thank you very much, Philippe Gruex. Philippe Gruex, the General Manager of Total Energies, EP Uganda, and also country chair of Total Energies in Uganda, a seasoned and highly skilled oil and gas professional with over 30 years experience with Total Energies, all right? So if you're just joining us, this is actually a virtual supplier development workshop on Tilenga, organized by Total Energies. Again, as I mentioned, these are quarterly engagements to enhance our information on the projects being undertaken by Total Energies, but also highlight the key opportunities therein. And who is in this room or who will be part of this conversation this morning and for the early part of the afternoon? We have representatives from the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development. We will also have, of course, presentations and key insights from Total Energies senior managers for selected key project packages and contracts and procurement, and also tier one contractors who will be sharing with us their experiences, and also several other subject matter experts. So we welcome you to this very virtual supply development workshop, both on Zoom and on television on NBS. So we welcome your contribution, and later we'll have Q&A sessions with our panel discussions where you can actually join us if you share your comments and questions through the platforms available. But also this conversation is being shared on the different social media platforms of Total Energies, and so you can follow this conversation across the different handles on social media. So we'll quickly move into joint ventures and strategic partnerships. I welcome James Musherere, who is the Senior National Content Officer Contracts at Petroleum Authority of Uganda, to make his presentation. You're welcome, James.
Thank you, Maurice. Good morning, our dear viewers. and everyone there out watching this supplier development engagement. I am representing the Petroleum Authority of Uganda, and we've been asked to come and participate in this regular and quite often supply engagements. Some of the benefits that come with COVID is that these engagements have now moved online to TV, as opposed to the past years when we used to have them in hotels and a few people benefited. But now we have them here, and we can share the information with more and more people on the platforms. I will start with who we are, what the Petroleum Authority is. And the Petroleum Authority of Uganda was established as a result of the National Oil and Gas Policy that was put in place in 2008. This policy was benchmarked on international standards, on international countries and jurisdictions that have had oil, and they recommended that that government sets up a specific body responsible for oversight and regulating the sector. And this was actually operationalized by the law, the Petroleum Exploration, Development and Production Act of 2013, and the authority officially came in place in 2015, with the ED coming in, I think, about 2016. As the first employee, we have now grown to about 190 staff, and we have a huge mandate of regulating this new nascent industry in Uganda. Our vision is to be the leading petroleum regulatory agency and want to create an environment that creates investment, but also make sure that the oil and gas is developed in a transparent, technical, and standard way, according to the law and according to the best international practice. We are not the only institution. As we do the oil and gas business, there are other institutions, and one of them is our mother ministry, which is the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development, which is handling the policy arm and the legal arm. And then the next institution is the National Oil and Gas, National Oil Company, UNOC. If you can go to the next slide, you will see it. UNOC, and this one is the commercial part. It handles the commercial interest. Government has stake in the refinery, government has stake in the oil fields. So the person handling those commercial aspects is UNOC, and of course the authority. So we are meant to regulate and make sure that we regulate the industry in the best way possible. And that's what we're aiming at. That's just a brief introduction about who we are. What are we regulating? I have a few minutes, so I'll rush through all these next slides and I go to the JV. We are regulating an industry so far where we've had about 6 billion barrels of oil discovered and about 1.4 which is going to be recovered. We are regulating 2 development projects that are ongoing now. The Tilenga project, which is up north, the green one, run by Total, and we have a Kingfisher project down, which is a bit south of Albert, that is run by CNOOC, the Chinese National Oil Company. But also we are regulating those that are under exploration. As you are aware, the minister issued more exploration licenses. And then, of course, now we are also going to regulate the pipeline and the refinery. So in summary, we are regulating upstream and midstream. So the upstream is the exploration and development, and the midstream is the pipeline and refinery, which are converting. In regulating, we regulate using tools. And one of the tools we use in regulating, we're looking at different areas, and we're looking at about 6 areas. One of them is the cost aspects, to make sure the industry is handled in the most cost-efficient way. We're looking at resource management to ensure that the resources are extracted in the most viable way, and all of them are extracted as required. We're looking at data. The oil and gas data is kept in place and stored well. We're looking at environment, which is key for oil and gas industry, to ensure the best international practices of environment are maintained. We're looking at stakeholder engagement, but above all, and the reason I'm here, we're also looking at national content to ensure that countries, Ugandans and Ugandan companies participate. And in regulating that, we're using tools and the different tools of national content to now speak about contracts, and that's why mainly we're here on the joint ventures. We review the work program of the licensee, and that is Total and CNOOC. We discuss the program on national content. We also review, as the authority, the procurement plans to ensure that these plans are put in place. The law requires that there is an approval of all contracts above 100,000 to ensure that they're in line with the law, and also we use the National Supplier Database to do that. In reviewing contracts, you can see there is a list of contracts that have so far been approved for the Tilenga project, and I'm sure they will talk about them more. A big one, for example, is about a $2 billion contract by, almost $2 billion by McDermott. But to date, we have about $2.8 billion of contracts approved for Total. And that's a huge amount. If you look at the projects that have been in Uganda, I think the biggest has been Karuma, of about $1.5 billion to $2 billion. Here we are talking about $2.8 billion so far approved in this short period. So this creates huge opportunities, and these huge opportunities are the ones where Ugandans participate. In approving those bid evaluation reports, we're ensuring that the law is followed, and there have been laws that have been put in place. Uganda has been fortunate to learn from the past people that have been in the industry, people who have tried and failed, people who have tried and succeeded. We've learned from countries like Nigeria, we've learned from countries like Norway, we've learned from countries like Ghana, who are also new producers. And we've put in place, the government has put in place the necessary laws and the institutional framework to ensure that as this oil and gas industry is being taken forward, it's done in the best way possible to benefit Ugandans, but also to develop the project. And those laws that are in place, we have the upstream laws, which is the Petroleum Exploration, Development and Production Act. We have the midstream law, which is the Petroleum Refining, Conversion, Transmission and Midstream Storage Act. And those are the two areas. We don't regulate the downstream petrol stations that you see. No, that's not the authority's role. These two. And these have come with attendant regulations, and part of them are the national content regulations. And in those regulations, they bring in elements that we are looking at. And in the next slide, you'll see what the national content regulations say, and the Petroleum Acts. First of all, they say priority should be given to a Ugandan company in procurement, where there are available services. And if it's not possible, the next priority should be given to a joint venture. This joint venture is usually the international and local. But also it does not deter the locals from coming into a joint venture. So you see that the laws are clear. Ugandan first, where not possible, joint venture, and where the joint venture is not possible, then international subcontracting, an international contractor is got. And of course, this being a new industry, we know that we may not find Ugandan companies being able to perform some of these. So that's why the JV is important. And you have to make sure that the authority approves the JV between the local and the international company. And the Ugandan company in that JV should have a participating interest of 48%. And when reviewing that, we ensure that the authority ensures that that scope sees what participating interest is there of the local company, what is happening, what are they going to do. It's not a shell JV. And from there, it can be awarded. Now, we have had good experiences with the JV. We've had companies in Uganda, and I'm glad some are in this room and are going to present, performing contracts because they have been able to enter JVs. We have had Geotech and Geo2X to do geophysical surveys. We've had companies like New Plan coming up with ICS. We have had companies like Q-Sourcing coming up with Egyptian Welding. Recently, we've had the subcontract of Camod International and Beta. I think they're also on the program to do camp services. And this, the main contractor, McDermott, is going to talk about them. But you can see the essence and the advantage of the JV. It reduces your financial risk. It reduces your technical risk as a local company. You share transfer of technology. You're given priority over a foreign company. So I encourage Ugandans, the kick is big, make sure you enter JVs and make sure you participate, because that's the only way to participate. So as I conclude, Maurice, the industry is moving. We've been waiting for FID, we've been waiting for opportunities. I think now they're here. You can see that so far for Tilenga alone, almost 3 billion has already been approved. You have to participate, but you need to know the level you're participating. There are 3 levels. Total as a licensee will award the main contractors, usually like McDermott, usually like Schlumberger, usually like... so those big contracts where Ugandans may not be able to participate, international companies will definitely execute them. If they can't be done in a JV, they will be done by international companies. But Ugandans can come in at level 2, level 3, if they fail to get at level 1. And that's why you will have level 1 players here in this room talking about that. An example is McDermott, $2 billion, but has subcontracted the JV of about, I think, 60 or 70 million for a camp construction. There will be camp catering, there will be waste management, there will be health and safety, there will be a lot at tier 2. So Ugandans do not rush only to the licensee, get to know that they are tier 1 players, participate under tier 2. The industry has come, we are doing all possible to communicate this, and we hope everyone can participate in the sector in one way or another. Go for JVs, don't focus on JV, and they have formed the JV consortium to be able to participate and take the big contracts of insurance.
Us off with a dive in on some of the data and information that is available. As mentioned earlier, if you're just joining us, this is a virtual conversation. Our supplier will definitely be interested in this conversation. And so if you're at home and watch for where we go from here, but or questions in that platform, because we will then have experts there in this conversation. So we'll quickly now move to Edrisa Kwizera, who is the in-country representative, project representative for Total Energies, to take us through the Tilenga projects and quick updates on how far we have come.
Thank you very much, Maurice. Good morning from our General Manager, Philip. We will give a chance to our main contractors to speak. This is their day to speak to our other stakeholders. But he also mentioned in his keynote address, Maurice, that the job has started. So my task now is to kind of provide more details on what actually has happened since then. So I have a very brief presentation, features of the Tilenga project, because we have several other projects happening in the Lake Albert development. The second message is I'll also give you an update of what has happened since we last spoke to you in June. And I will end my submission today with some sort of look ahead at a very high level. So on behalf of the project management team, I thank you all for tuning in today. So a quick refresher on what the Tilenga project is. So the Tilenga project is the upstream development that is sitting on contract area 1 and license area 2 north, sitting within the Noya and Bulisa districts. Our plan is to drill over 400 wells, and we shall strategically situate them on about 31 well pads. The hydrocarbons from those wells will be evacuated to the central processing facility, which is sitting within the industrial area that James mentioned that McDermott and Sinopec will be responsible for putting up. One of the unique installations on the Tilenga project is a Nile crossing, because when you see on this map in front of you, 10 of our well pads are north of the Nile, so we have an intricate Nile crossing about 2 kilometers wide that will help evacuate the fluids across the Nile. Another interesting feature of our project is lake water abstraction. For us to get water for use in our industrial area, we'll have a lake water abstraction facility south of the industrial area at a location near Wahrindi or Bulisa town, those who have been in that area. Once the crude has been processed at a central processing facility, of course, the output of our industrial area is the crude oil. It's then evacuated to the delivery point in Hoima via a feeder pipeline. So effectively, that's where the Tilenga project ends, Maurice. And it's important to note, as you hinted, that ECOP will also be participating tomorrow, that from the delivery point onwards, time we come here every quarter, we just remind our viewers what actually makes the Tilenga project. So the second message is, how far then have we gone in terms of this bringing this project to fruition? So I'm glad to report that we have made some good progress. And thanks to the people who are in this room, and you hear from them, in terms of the enabling infrastructure, as Philip mentioned, we now, since June, we have been working on the site preparation for the industrial area. And as of today, in fact, at the beginning of November, we banked one major milestone when the construction camp area was handed over to McDermott. And in a minute, I'll tell you why that is important. So the first major milestone was registered on the site preparation. So the work is continuing. In terms of the other area of well pad site preparation, we successfully awarded this contract to Motainjil, Uganda, and on 17th November, we had our kickoff meeting. This, in terms of site preparation, is one of the largest by scope because it's going to span several months. But it's important to note that now, today, we can report that we have a contractor. We had a kickoff meeting on 17th of November, and work is going to start in terms of site preparation. As mentioned, which accounts for close to $2 billion, we have also registered some progress. McDermott will speak more in detail, but I'm glad to report that since we are, and Phil, who is in this room today, will speak to you more, there's a lot of work happening in London at the contractor's office. They have also effectively prepared and ready to start the construction of the erection of the construction camp. You remember I mentioned to you that Motainjil had finished the construction camp area. So now they have handed it over to McDermott and Sinopec to build a construction camp. It's of importance to just highlight, we have had camps before in our project. We have had 100-man camps, 200-man camps. The camp that McDermott is going to be erecting is 4,000-man camp. It's a huge, for us, we're excited about that. One, because it's the first major subcontract that McDermott is going to be doing. Number two, as James mentioned, it's being done with a joint venture that involves a Ugandan company. So a huge opportunity for us retaining value in country. But number three, it's also the first major physical activity, because one of the things we have been facing when we come here every quarter is to be able to prove to the world that we are actually going ahead with these projects. Again, I'm glad to report that between July, August, and September, we were able to finalize the commitments through issuance of conditional letters for the 10 packages. And between the 10 packages, we have 6 main contractors. So we have Schlumberger, which is handling 4 of those packages: directional drilling, upper completions, lower completions, and Christmas trees. And we have Valaloik is in the room here as well. They are dealing with the provision of casing and tubing, to put it simply. We have China Oilfield Services, which is handling 2 packages, the electrical logging and the fluids and cement. We have Enviroserve. Enviroserve has been with us for a while now. Those of you who have used the Hoima Kaisotonia Road, you will see their facility at Nyamasoga. So we're glad to report they are now with us to be able to handle our drilling cuttings as a main contractor under the drilling and wells. And we also have, I can say also between them, about $800, $900 million of value. And I have to mention here, it's very important, and this is what this workshop is, they will be working with several other subcontractors in order to deliver these scopes of work. So that's a huge achievement as of today. We can report that we have commitments with these contractors of today. The final point I would like to mention in form of an update, and it's important to us, is that this work cannot go on without a team. And in the last 3 months, I have welcomed over 30 people on our project management team. We have them at Coast View Towers. They come in the drilling team, the geoscience and reservoir team, the logistics team. So we have a fully constituted project team. There will be more coming before the end of the year, and many more at the beginning of next year. So that's a huge milestone as well for us, Maurice, in terms of the update, in terms of the project. So that's what has transpired in terms of emphasizing the point Philippe makes, that the job has started. I just want to end by giving a look ahead at a very high level. Again, on behalf of the project management team, what do we see happening in the next 6 to 12 months? Now, this is very high level because the contractors will give finer details where possible. So, in terms of the enabling infrastructure, we expect that we will reach another milestone from Motainjil and its subcontractors. I have to say Motainjil is working with at least 4 main subcontractors: PAL, Civitec, Prand, Resonant. And I mention these so that our stakeholders out there know that it's possible for our local contractors to take part in this industry. So we expect them to deliver another milestone, which is the drilling support base. And we expect by the middle of next year that they will have finished the site preparation for industrial area. So that's our look ahead in terms of the enabling infrastructure. We also expect within the next 6 to 12 months that the other packages on the road upgrades, the upgrade of the airstrip will also be commenced in January and completed within 2022. Just to highlight, in case someone is wondering, why are we upgrading an airstrip? So we do have an airstrip in Bugungu that is operated by Uganda Wildlife Authority, but at the peak of our project, we'll be having lots of people who are going in to work in the field. And our main means of evacuation of crew changes will be using aircraft. So we are expanding that airstrip to allow it to be able to accommodate a slightly bigger aircraft. So we are undertaking this work from next year for about 8 months. So that's something, again, in terms of a look ahead. This work will be undertaken by Ugandan civil contractors. Very important to note that. In terms of the main production facilities, again, no pressure to my brother here, Phil. We expect that in the next 6 to 12 months, that 90% of the detailed engineering is complete. We also expect that the 4,000-man camp that you have undertaken this month will have been completed so that your teams can be able to use this camp to be able to construct the rest of the surface facilities. So that's our look ahead. In undertaking this construction, 4,000-man camp and spending tens of millions of dollars, there will be a lot of local contractors, from Uganda and from within the area that will be taking part. Phil and his colleagues were recently in the communities to hire the locals from the area using a ballot system, and I think they will talk about it more. So we are already seeing this happening. So that's our expectation in the next 6 to 12 months in terms of a look ahead. There's also an expectation on the main surface facilities, and Phil will speak to that and Barbara later, that there will be also commitments made on the major subcontracts, such as civil works, such as logistics, and so on. And have is in terms of the drilling and wells. It's a very important part of our project, and everyone from Valulwek is also here. I will be speaking to you. So we have an expectation. Now, most of this, unfortunately, is happening behind the scenes, but each of those 6 main contractors is doing a lot of preparation. They are setting up their yards where possible. They are procuring all the things that they need. But the key highlight for me in the next 6 to 12 months is we expect to have the rigs mobilized in-country by ZPEB in the middle of next year. They will be assembled, and hopefully by the first week of October, we expect to spud the first well. So we expect 2 rigs in-country before the end of next year, Maurice. So that's our look ahead in terms of the project going forward. So that's my key messages today, Maurice. As I said, I think we'd like to hear more from our contractors.
You have come, and as a project, the conversation will continue. But before we then conclude this part of our discussion this morning around contracting, Pamela?
Thank you, Maurice.
That's all right.
Yeah. So good morning to our viewers and listeners. We are doing what the look ahead is. So my job is simple. Clear that there's a lot of commitment that has been made. The regulator is on board. But how can we still get, a piece of this action? So that will be my focus for the next 10 minutes. The focus in terms of strategic focus is to make sure that as we go about the different operations, having full 100% national content inclusion in the way we. So what does this mean? For the listeners, how then can you join? My focus is to let you know it's a joint effort, and I'll reiterate what the general manager talked about. Most of what I'm going to present, I'm sure, may be well known to to most of the listeners. Typically, we will prepare normally a plan or a budget, for what we are going to do within the year. That gives us the look ahead. And in doing, say, our national content programs and plans, our focus is to ensure that we understand what is the minimum requirements in terms of regulatory compliance, included in the plans that we did the general public at large, the national contents, making sure that there is capacity building. I would say it's not something our own operations or outside. It's at this point that we'll have capacity building to make sure that we have the right budgets in place. And it's at this point that we also set targets in terms of when this can be done and how we'll approach this itself. That is approaching the market, establishing capacity, understanding how they can support us to run the project. At this point, we actualize what was in our plans in our own sourcing procurement, so in our sourcing documents. In other words, this is when we articulate now to the public what we would like to attain in the year and how you can participate in it. Instructions to the market, that are in our instructions to you. It's just also to share with you that it is something that we weight and give importance when deciding who to work with, whether it's an international provider or a local provider. In other words, I would say a carve-out for foreign entities. No, on the contrary, actually, it's everyone who would like to participate in the industry has to understand what are our aspirations in involving Ugandans and how can you play a part, whether you're a local provider or a foreign one. So, lastly, when we have narrowed down, in other words, whatever commitments you've done, you've represented in terms of how capacity building programs do you have embedded in the performance of the work, how are you going to train and how are you going to track that, all that is reduced into a contract, which at this point I'd like to emphasize will be a contractual obligation that is also monitored for breach. So my job here is just experience sometimes a lack of appreciation from the market on the importance of it. In other words, when you make commitments to do something, just to reiterate what the general manager spoke to earlier, is that we don't only include these commitments, we actually monitor. So that brings me to the last point. Once we have reduced it into the contract, do we really follow up what we have actually discussed over the months? Yes, we do, very much. And how do we do that? So we have online platforms that we have now developed that will help us to get real-time information from our main contractors, who I shall call Tier 1, but they are also obligated to get, I would say, follow-up information from their own subcontractors, and this tool helps us to monitor, did we actually achieve what we had gone out for? The monitoring of this helps us to understand which contractors actually appreciate the vision that Total Energies has, which is to ensure that we have an impactful footprint in the country through the operations that are going to take place. So we really rely a lot on our contractors and key players to keep their side of the story, to ensure that, all this is actually actualized and people actually benefit out of it. So lastly, of course, we have a lot of monitoring and reporting that James actually whips us on a quarterly basis. He will always ask, are you sure this is what is optimal that you can get done? So we have reporting that we undertake externally to the regulator who actually oversees the operations to ensure we are committing to what we actually said we're going to do. We have internal reporting, so we sense check ourselves to make sure that we are achieving what we're looking for. I will just, I think, close here. What's my key message? My key message is to ensure that there is full participation of everyone, whether they are foreign contractors or local contractors. You have got to understand the commitments that you are making, supply chain, make the commitment and follow it up. If you need understanding or guidance on, how can I factor national content in my strategic focus as a contractor? Feel free to approach us at our head offices. We help to attain this strategic focus. That is the inclusion of national content.
And James and Idrissa and John, who are here for energies. And our theme today, enhancing awareness and participation in the Tilenga project. It is a virtual conversation that is both online, on Zoom, and of course live on television. We are expecting your questions and comments to come through in this room. And so we are going to take a very small break and let you run this video as we bring on our next guests in our second session. We'll be looking at the updates from the Engineering, Procurement, Supply, Construction and Commissioning Contractor Consortium. And they will be talking to us on how far they have come through this conversation on the Tilenga project. That after this break.
NBS